Welcome to that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions you're asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records. Akashic, we laughing, we drafting the passion to vary. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling. Conscious is always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magicless, passing it. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers? What? All the answers.
Flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow. To the extreme, I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up the stage and watch it jump like a candle. Dance. I can do the whole thing. We are.
I have now. Damn it.
Well, he can use my part.
That's right, because that's all that matters.
Isn't it? Doesn't that work that way? He can't use just a selection from...
Right. I just wasn't running mine yet, so my commentary wasn't recorded.
Oh, your very important commentary.
Very important.
What are we going to do without it?
Thanks for your dismissive nature. I feel really important now.
Wow.
I'm delicate, like a flower.
Are you delicate today?
Like a vandal. I'm going to rock the mic like a vandal.
Light up a stage to jump like a candle? Dance? Speakers that boom? Killing your brain like a poisonous mushroom deadly? When you play a dope melody, anything less than the best is a felony? Like that?
Yeah, just like that.
Oh. You know, when you're from Miami, I think you're obligated to know all the lyrics to that song.
Is he from Miami? Robbie Van Winkle?
Remember, that was the whole controversy about him. He claimed to be from Miami, and he called it Miami, created all that bass sound, like he was from there.
Right.
But then he turned out not to be, and it was like a big kerfuffle.
He was from like some rich enclave outside of Miami or something.
I think it's worse. I think he was from like a fully other, like Idaho.
North Carolina.
Not Miami in any way.
Gotcha.
I think. I'm not entirely sure.
You know, we'll take, you can write to allanswerspod@gmail.com if you'd like to correct us on our Robbie Van Winkle history.
Please tell us the difference. Please do. My God.
I think that's Vanilla Ice's name. That's what's sticking in my head.
I think it's something equally goofy.
Somebody's named Robbie Van Winkle. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I know you want to look it up.
I have to. Let's just get it out of the way.
To the extreme, I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up the stage and watch me jump like a candle.
Oh, don't ever doubt my weird knowledge, because that shit's on point.
Oh, shit.
Robert Matthew Van Winkle.
God damn it. Fucking go. Well done.
MC Hammer's name is Stanley.
It sounds way too ridiculous to be true.
It's true. That's the point. It's like, could you pick a more absurdly dorky, wealthy patrician name?
No.
Robert Van Winkle.
It's just comedy gold.
It's comedy gold.
Holy shit. Well, here, I'll tell you a little story. You ready?
I feel like that's the beginning of another old school rap song. I'll tell you a little story and I'm going to begin. Here we go.
On the chin. Not gonna lie, to tell the truth. I'm not sleeping on the ground. I'm sleeping on the roof. That's how the 80s raps went.
It's
Don't
true.
you feel like?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Which is how every improvised rap goes too for every improviser on stage. Because you're just like, set up a rhyme and rhyme it. Set up a rhyme and rhyme it. But you have to go simple because you're slow and dumb like me.
To be fair, not like Freestyle Love Supreme because they know their
Well,
hooks.
please. That's
Right.
next level.
That's a whole
like,
other thing.
That's like people who do that for real. The rest of us are just like, say cat. So then you can say bat. Say ram. So then you can say ham. Last night, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm house sitting for my sister. She has a dog that is the devil's doorstep keeper. Like, what's the name of the person who guards the door?
Cerberus.
Cerberus. I live right now with Cerberus.
The motherfucking devil's son-in-law. Wicked as can be, easy E got the flow.
And are you speaking about how they behave? They actually stop you from going through places? Or is this more emotionally they are Cerberus?
Emotionally, they're Cerberus. It'd be so much better. You're so right. If literally they were stopping me in doorways or something. No, they're just, I would say they themselves are the devil incarnate in dog form, but they're just like less cool than that. They're like annoying, this fucking dog. Like, I have never in my life hated an animal.
Wow.
Now, when I say hate, it comes and goes. We cuddle at night. He's on the couch. He's adorable. When he's calm, he's nice. He also bites the hand that feeds him literally.
Yep, that's not good behavior.
It hurts. He barks like a maniac. He scares my little dogs. He escapes all the time and he won't come back. He's a fucking nightmare. Last night, 2:15 in the morning. I don't know what happened, but all 3 dogs. So I've got my 2 beasts at Sarah's house in the bed and Pody, the asshole, Cerberus. Let's call him Cerberus from here on out, shall we?
Yep.
Okay. The 3 of them are on the bed with me sleeping. Very adorable. Don't hate Cerberus in this moment at all. Love Cerberus. Cuddling, spooning with Cerberus. 2:15. All of them co-wake up. They all just collaboratively awaken. Rah, 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 barking. Full volume. Okay. They all need to go to the yard right now. Now, the yard is fenced in by a lowish fence that we all collaboratively sort of put up. I put up parts of it. Sarah and Cecily put up the other parts. Fence. So I go, I stumble out of bed. I let them out. Something's out there. Fine. But they have to pee or whatever. Fine. So I put them out there. I'm standing there waiting, half asleep. The 2 little dogs come back 2 minutes later. They're like, we peed. We barked at a thing. We're done. And they're like, what do we do now, Mom? And I'm like, come on in the house, small dogs. A few minutes go by, no Pody. A few more minutes go by, no Pody. I'm very tired, but I'm looking and I'm like, I don't fucking see the dog. Long story long, he fucking escaped somehow, miraculously, which I'm still trying to figure out how, because I've done all kinds of reconnaissance missions now on this fence to be like, where is the break that he got through? There isn't one that I can find. I think some animal was making a sound nearby that he was just so ferociously had to get to it that he hopped this fence. That's the best I can come up with. And Sarah's like, nah, I don't think he could do that. And I'm like, I don't know what else. Anyway, whatever it was, now it's 2:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I guess I have to put clothes on and go try to find this dog in the fucking neighborhood.
Ugh.
And I've like been through this before with him. He runs when you get close to him. And I'm like, I don't have fucking energy for this, but this is not my dog. I have to get the dog. So I weirdly, this week, where did I hear this information? It was the vet. When I went to take Nigel to the vet, they said, I don't know how this came up, but it was like, if you ever lose your dog and you're looking for them, their sense of smell is so heightened that you would be way better served to bring a piece of steak with you when you're hunting than to yell their name. Because if they don't want to come back, they're not coming because you yelled their name.
Yeah.
But if you have steak, they're coming. From like a mile away, they'll come for steak. And I was like, all right. So I got some fucking meat and just like stood out on the front porch and was like, Pody, I hope this works. Because I don't have a lot of energy to find your ass. Sure as shit, he comes prancing from around the 2 neighbors' houses away. Oh yeah, I'm right here. You have steak? Okay, great. I'll come inside. But there was like a 15-minute period of time where my adrenaline was so high at 2:15 in the morning that by 3:45, I was still wide the fuck awake.
Yeah.
You know how that goes.
Yep.
And you're like, just sleep. Why can't I sleep?
I have a huge day tomorrow. Come on, please. I just need to squeeze in a little more sleep, please.
And I did. I have had a huge fucking day today. Fucking Pody. Anyway, so that happened. He's fine. He's back home. Everybody lived. And then I have like 3 other stories from today that are positive and fun.
Oh, that's good. Let's hear them. I don't know if I have any stories. We'll get to, I don't know. I have things, but they're small.
Okay. And we should do a spiritual something today, don't you think?
Well, yeah, we would be well suited. I don't know if we have any questions. No, we don't have any leftover questions. I've been checking.
But didn't we get a follow-up from Margaret's husband?
Yeah, we can share that. It's just a nice follow-up. There was no additional questions or anything. Yeah.
I thought he was like, yes, Katie, this is a thing, but also this thing.
Well, I'll look at it.
All right.
We'll find out. I put out a call to the ether, but no one responded yet that I know of.
That's just fine. Okay, so a friend out here connected me with a very random actor side gig. And I love the topic of actor side gigs.
Oh, yeah. We got stories. We could tell all the stories.
We got stories. And like, like small versions of acting jobs that are like just weird that no one in the world would know was even a thing until we tell them, like SP work or whatever. Okay, so I got a little actor side gig. I can't say all the details about it, but the short version is I get to pretend to be someone with a problem, make a phone call. Someone on the other end presents that problem to listeners they have. The listeners call in and go, here's what they should do. And it's all pre-recorded and silly. And you get like $25 per call. And you can just...
I hope the call is only like actually a minute's worth of work.
Three minutes. It's like, boom, in and out. Wouldn't be worth invoicing for it.
No.
But if you do 10 in a week or 5 in a week, I don't hate that for 3 minutes a day. Sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, fun actor side gig. Story number 2 from today that's excellent. Had a meeting with an Atlanta agent. They signed me.
Amazing.
I'm thrilled. They had actors on Stranger Things. They rep like legit peeps who do TV, film, and all the commercial things in Atlanta where there's a lot of shooting. And they were like, hey, we see that your SAG, everything in the Southeast, like 90% of it that is a commercial or an industrial is non-union. And I was like, well, if only I were FICOR. Wait, I am.
Are you?
I am.
We should talk, maybe not in detail here, but I would like to talk to you about that.
Oh, I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah. FICOR, just for the listeners, is a sort of subcategory of the union that you can claim, which basically allows you to both do union and non-union work. And the union hates that it exists, and they tell you, you can't go FICOR, but legally you can, and it's fine. And I think the only thing you don't get the SAG CDs, the DVDs.
The screeners.
You don't get the SAG screeners, and you can't vote in elections.
Yeah. So I would frame it like, yes, to everything you said. It's a way to have like one foot in the union and one foot out so that you can do union jobs and non-union jobs. So of course, SAG hates it. SAG is the Screen Actors Guild, the screen union, because it weakens the union, and they're not wrong. However, when I was in the Bay Area, there wasn't enough union work as far as I was concerned. And I was like, I want to work. So I went FICOR. When you go FICOR, SAG calls you and gives you, I would even say it was a somewhat threatening phone call.
Wow.
Maybe threatening is a little too strong. They were strongly discouraging of it. And they were talking like punitively. They were like,
right,
suggesting bad things will happen.
But then you're like, what are those bad things?
Precisely what bad things? They couldn't, nothing. And so then they were like, well, you understand you can't vote. And I was like, I will be okay. And then they were like, and you won't get your screeners. And for the listener, screeners are when the movies that are being considered for
the SAG Awards.
Isn't it also the Academies?
No, just the SAG Awards.
See, it's even dumber. When they're being considered for SAG Awards, they'll send SAG members DVDs of the movies ahead of time.
Right.
So you can watch them at home instead of having to go out to see it. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
So anyway, they tried to strong arm me into staying in, and I just was polite and said, I'll think about it. And they were like trying to get me to decide on the call. And I said, I'm not going to decide on the call. So thank you. Take care. And then I just filled out the form and was like, bye.
I think I want to talk to my agent about what they think about that.
Yeah, I thought about it a long time. I mean, I'm making it sound like it all happened in 5 minutes, but it was a hard choice because I don't want to contribute to something that hurts the union, of course. But like, also, players got to play.
Yeah. And around here, it's the VO world, the voiceover world is all non-union and decently paid. The main thing you don't get is you don't get residuals from non-union work. And that's the thing. So if you do like a big commercial that could actually pay you potentially, $50,000 over time, that's not going to happen. Non-union. You might get a good buyout for the day's work, but no residuals. That's the big minus of non-union work.
Yep. And it's just at a certain point, some people just get frustrated with not working because you're in a union. And it's like, this is not the point of the union for me to not be able to do a job.
Yeah. It's a hard back and forth because then there's the thing about, well, the whole point is collective bargaining. We have to show solidarity in order to do it. And then we need to hold ourselves accountable to that. But then at a certain point, you also go like, who am I holding it accountable to? There's no...
Exactly.
My power is diminished.
This brings me to something you would have much more insight about than I, which is the whole thing that's happening with equity right now.
Open access?
I don't know if that must be what it's called. The thing where it's not that hard to get in, basically.
Right. Anybody can join, basically.
Is that official? Is it happening now?
Yeah. I mean, anybody can join is a little overstated, but barely. You just have to prove
You did one show
that you are a professional actor.
by having done one show where you got paid, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So for people listening, just to understand what that means to people like us, like back in our day, you had to earn a bunch of what's called EMC points or get a backdoor in, or there was all this jumping through a long set of hoops.
Yeah, you had to go through a sort of a proving process, a journeyman process. Yeah.
Right. You had to do a certain number of shows and get all these points so that you could earn your way into the union, so that by the time you got in, you were appropriately considered someone who is professional and works, and it had a certain cachet with it, and it meant you were a professional. But now it just means you're protected by the rules and you have to get paid a certain amount, get health insurance and stuff, but you can just walk on in. So,
which then waters it down for the rest of us who are then like, well, now I'm up against even more people to get that health insurance, which I'm not receiving because I can't get enough work to qualify for it. But it was a way of also breaking down some of the inequitable barriers that existed. That was addressing that. But yeah, there's so many back and forths on it. I'm not totally against it because I don't know enough to be against it.
yeah.
Also, the more of us who are in it, the stronger then we, in theory, can be, because then it's like we can force more theaters to have to reckon with the union because there won't be any actors left in the non-union pools. I don't know. I wish I knew. I don't know. This is why I'm not on a council or a fucking committee, because I'm like, I feel good about both choices.
Yeah, I don't know. For those of us like dinosaurs who the part of the purpose of doing it was to be like, I'm saying to the world, I take this as my career and my serious profession.
Yeah.
That was sort of a moniker of that. But at the same time, if we're real about it, there's plenty of people working at a very high level of professionalism who never went equity and worked more than I did because they weren't limiting themselves by being equity.
Yeah, it's you got a lot of tours that are like Broadway style tours that are non-union, and they're not getting paid great and they're being a little abused, but they are high level of professionalism and have the other things going for them.
I'm even just thinking of regional theater, just like theaters near you where you could just like do 5 shows back to back at wherever and not have such a hard time because there's only one contract on that show. If you're non-equity, you can do a bunch of shows locally because...
That's the thing. That is, I don't know. It's a frustrating moment in all of it. And theaters are going under. Theaters are literally just turning off their lights.
They are?
Yeah, a lot of theaters are.
Still?
Yeah, still.
There's got to be a new model. Like, how is it that this is the only, like, this is a business. Businesses run and they make money. Like, how is this model so flawed and other businesses work?
Well, because the cost and the price and cost balance has always been out of whack. There's no theater can ever operate on income alone because the amount it takes to put on a show far outstrips what you can possibly charge, because you wouldn't fill your seats if they were $9,000 a ticket. So you want to make it accessible to more people. And so you're like, okay, $20 to $80 a ticket.
But then why does football work?
Because it doesn't, that's a good question. Because licensing. Because football also gets millions and millions and millions of dollars from TV. So you don't just have the people in the stadium. Also, stadiums hold 50,000 people.
Yeah, but if theaters held 50,000 people, they wouldn't be full.
Right. It's not that exciting.
Yeah, I guess it's like people like sports more than they like theater.
Yeah. Well, movie theaters are also closing down like crazy, which is really surprising.
Well, not with streamers. It makes total sense, right?
Yeah.
It's sad. I feel sad about it.
Sad.
I mean, I wonder if movie theaters will survive just on like the joy of getting to go to one.
I've never understood how even like network TV can possibly be such a billion-dollar industry and how they can pay so well. And, every episode of one TV show costs $2 million and it's at least in the past, it's free, right?
Right.
And it's all commercials. That's it. They just charge their advertisers that much
I mean,
to be able to pay every member of the crew and special effects and flying them to Germany for the shoots and like there's so many shows. And then you add streamers. I don't understand it all. Streaming where it's prepaid. So that movie itself, like Game of Thrones, which is billions of dollars an episode or whatever, that show itself is not making any money.
right.
Because I'm not paying for that show. I don't understand. I don't understand.
either.
I don't understand.
I mean, it must be as simple as, but this is hard to get my head around. I've thought about this so many times. I totally hear you. It must be as simple as there are so many people willing to pay the small price of what it costs to have a streaming service that number is so big because of how small the number is, the cost, that then they have all this money. But still, it seems to me like it wouldn't be enough money.
And they have to constantly be future thinking too, because it's like, well, we have this show and we're going to cancel this show because we don't think enough people care about it to stay with our service. If like, yeah. So we have to constantly be, yeah.
Let's do a fast math thing.
Okay. Is this interesting? I'm wondering.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So let's say it's now what, $14 to have Netflix?
Yeah.
So how many people are in the world?
How many subscribers? I'm just going to look up how many subscribers Netflix has.
Yeah.
I used to live in New York.
Whoa. My phone started talking.
Only 231 million.
Okay. So 231 million. That's subscribers to Netflix or people on Earth?
Subscribers to Netflix. No, we have 6 billion or 6 trillion. 6 billion. I don't remember.
Okay. So if you multiply 231 million times 14.
So that's 3,234,000,000.
So you have $3.2 billion with which you're trying to fund all these productions.
All these productions.
But 3.2 billion is a lot.
Sure.
So let's say a production takes, you got big actors too. You got to pay them a couple mil.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. Thank God I'm not in charge.
Wait a minute. So advertising is still a thing.
Not on Netflix.
True. But on Hulu and all the other places. So those other guys are getting their 3.2 bill plus advertising dollars. That makes sense. That seems like it would add up, doesn't it?
Sure. I mean, that's how the Netflix networks have done it for years.
So there you go. So then Hulu, Peacock, those make sense, right? Because you've got your 3.2 bill
plus advertising.
And advertising is a fuck ton of money. So it's only Netflix we don't understand.
All this is to say, how do we make money doing a podcast?
No, but I really am actually asking sincerely. It's like I actually have wondered how this fucking works, but now I think I actually get it, except for Netflix, because if they don't have commercials, I don't know how they're making up the difference there. Wait, isn't Netflix in bed with the tech industry? Like Netflix, and you are so useless today. I love it so much. You're so cute.
I don't know. At a certain point, it's just, I feel like I'm just talking out my ass of like, well, there's that. That's a number, but how does that work? What, Amazon?
We're just speculating. We're having a conversation. We're speculating in theory. So my point is, I'm pretty sure Netflix is like somewhat funded by somebody in the tech industry. I think that because of so many different reasons, it would be very boring to lay it out. If a listener knows this, help us, write us.
How does this work?
Email us. But I think does it not feel satisfying to you to understand the Hulu Peacock format? That feels very satisfying to me.
I mean, I mean, yes and no. It is yes, as much as I get that that's how broadcast television has worked from the beginning. And but that still remains to me like the amount of money you then must have to charge every advertiser, and that the advertisers think it's worth it to spend $6 billion on this one commercial.
Right. But if you think about how many eyes are on your towel commercial
right
every time it runs, and you just run the numbers on how much you're making.
And then I'm shocked at something like Temu, which was on fucking the Super Bowl ran like 4 times this one ad for Temu, which no one knows what it even is. I think it's a marketplace, brand new. Like, so that thing has deep pockets.
Yeah.
They invested, $200 million in that campaign to launch themselves. So
We're all talking about Temu. Yeah. So that must be like a Daddy Warbucks situation.
where the investor is like,
They walked in with money.
yeah.
I mean, I guess there's just a lot of fucking people on Earth who have a fuck ton of money.
And there's just a lot of people on Earth that they want to give them a little tiny bit of money. I mean, that those companies are looking to get their eyes on a thing to get their tiny bit of money. That's the main thing. Is it's like they're reaching 231 million people.
Right. But you'd have to have a fuck ton of money to bother reaching to however many people. It's a lot. It's so interesting.
It's a lot.
I liked it. That was a good talk. I'm excited. What spiritual shit should we do right now?
Well, I'll tell you my story for the weekend, and then we'll get into some spiritual shit. I finally opened my show, which is all my stories have been about lately, is this play. And
Yeah.
I think it was a funny flow. Like Thursday night, our first preview, was not our best. It was kind of a shit show. It was fine, but like, you come out of it going, I think we did the show, but does anybody care? You know, that question that's.
Because they didn't laugh or smile or cry.
Yeah, they were a small audience, and I don't know from the show whether it's I think I'm fine. I think we're good. I don't know. Do you care? Does anyone, why would you care? That's the question I always ask about any show. Like, why should we care? Like, am I entertained? Am I compelled? I don't care. Whatever. You guys did a nice job. Good job. Bye. That's me being really down on things. But then Friday night, opening night, it was full, and it was full of friendly faces of like, the industry and the community and and they were just like laughing at everything, like ferociously, even though it's not even really a comedy, like, but laughing at things that were funny and like,
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this was great. And then, talking to people afterwards, being pulled aside and getting that, like, the double down, that was great. The one thing that's like, oh, good job. Or then they're like, no, seriously.
No, that's so good.
That's when they do the no, seriously thing, you're like, okay, that's for real. Got some great feedback from people of like, oh, that's some of the best thing I've ever seen you do. And I was like, okay, whatever. But then after the rush of that, Saturday night was just a piece of shit. And, we always say like, oh, that was a terrible show. And the difference between that and the good show was like 6 inches. I think it actually was a bad show.
In what sense?
Well, the major thing being that we actually had some real intense line flubs that screwed the tech person.
Oof.
Because we were missing cues because we were, going to a different chunk, and her being like, I don't know which fucking cue to take. Since we skipped that cue, then the next sound cue was actually lined up.
Shit.
To go. And so then it was like, oh shit, do I do that one or do I find it? Like, and her being like, where the fuck are you guys? So that shit, to the point where at one point she took a cue and it was clearly wrong. And you heard from the back of the audience, which is where oh shit.
No.
And then, of course, that makes her look bad. And it was all our fault. I mean, I had to make that clear to the director later. I was like, look, this is not her. Because I think she thought it was her fault. It's like, no. That was all us. We screwed her over.
Oh, no.
We were all over the map. I started the show all like in my head and thinking about, do they like me or whatever, that stupid shit.
Yeah.
Instead of just doing my goddamn job.
Yeah, fuck.
So then I was like, what the hell?
That's rough. It's hard.
So then Sunday, we got there a little early with me and the guy who were in the scene that had the most problems. And we ran that scene. It's a whole series of scenes that are very confusing. It's this time loop scene where you restart at a different point in this play and then it plays out differently each time.
Oh.
So that's why things go badly. Because you're like, fuck, which version am I in now?
Mm-hmm.
Which branch am I taking? Did I start? Am I saying next one already? Shit, is that this one?
Which choose your own adventure,
exactly.
Like rabbit hole do you go down? Mm-hmm.
Even though it is set what order it happens in, but you doubt that you're in the right iteration that time. You're like, shit, is this number 3 or number 2? Yeah. So we got together and we ran it top to bottom with the cues, even discovered some miswritten cues that the sound designer had screwed up. So it's like, that was also part of the problem. She was able to be like, oh shit, he made that an auto follow and I used to have to take that twice. And so when I take it twice, it jumps to the next queue or whatever, blah, blah, tech stuff. But then Sunday matinee, like all my people were there. My whole chosen family was there. Like my little poly fellowship and some other folks, like it was like I had a huge crew there. One of the other actors had like 15 people in the audience. And this is a pretty small space, 99, under 99 seats. So we packed it with our people.
I love that.
And it fucking raged. It was better than opening night. It was like,
oh my God.
I killed it. Just were out there. I was connecting. I was like, I'm in here with you. I know you're the one that I'm having this scene with, all that shit. We were having a good time. They were laughing. They were enjoying it. Afterwards, Katie just dropped a private message in the chat and it cracked me up. So I'm having trouble remembering what I was saying.
It's just like salacious gossip about the Bay Area.
Anyway,
afterwards, everybody loved it. You raged better than opening night.
Honestly, in that moment, I was having trouble remembering our substitute name for my girlfriend. Denise. I couldn't remember Denise. I was about to say her actual name. And that's like,
yeah, nope.
What do we call her?
What is it? Francine? No.
I know she had the experience and I was like, it was this, right? And she was like, yeah, which is, oh, I'm so relieved that you're an excellent actor, right? Because you have that thing with someone you love and you're like, I hope this thing you do is actually good.
Such a nightmare.
First time I saw a piece of art of hers that I was like, fuck, that's amazing. I was able to be like, yes.
I want to put a pin in this because I have a question about this.
Yeah.
And let's put a pin in the name James and we'll come back to it.
Okay, James.
Because you'll help me remember because I'll forget.
Yeah, and like everybody, like that was the first time she'd really seen me act and also...
Really?
I mean, she's seen me I did a reading once, and that's it.
Because you guys got together during COVID.
Yeah. And I haven't been in a full production of a show since.
Fucking COVID.
So that was really cool getting to like have that. So many of our community were there again on Sunday, people that I hadn't seen and people who I like respect the shit out of too, who were like pulling me aside. Some of my sort of like, people I hold as standards.
Yeah.
Wow, that was so good. That was so compelling. Oh my God, you shocked me. You surprised me. I was like.
But so you sound like you're not sure you feel that way about it. Is that true?
I do now.
Okay.
I feel the confidence that I need. It's not so much just the confidence in our performance, which is one thing, which was a little shaky. We didn't have our lines down or whatever, or we didn't know if the cues were right. That kind of confidence. But it's just also the confidence in the product.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if Friday night was just like, oh, everyone was so there for Aaron and feeling like support for the process.
Okay.
And maybe that's why they were so enthusiastic.
Okay.
But Sunday felt more like an affirmation of the potential of what it is.
Oh, that's good.
Like if we don't pull a Saturday night on it, as long as we do, we now need to live up to what the show is. And if we do that, it's great. It's a great show.
Well, that's good to know.
So.
Right?
That's really good to know. Feels really good.
Big time relief.
Like we were talking on the podcast. Yeah, we like to hear from people when our podcast changes their lives. I had a few people like, just tell me directly. And it is ego, but it is also affirmation, of like.
Well, it's self-esteem, confidence.
You do excellent work in this show. You're a good actor. And I get to see it because this show provides that vehicle for you and you're doing it. And I was like, okay, good. I just need to fucking hear that every once in a while because you doubt. I haven't been in a play in forever. Maybe I lost it.
1,000,000%. Here's what I think in general these days, more and more, I'm just like, look, humans are social animals. We're social animals. So it's like to think we could get all of our joy and our fulfillment and our like needs met in and of ourselves is really kind of delusional.
Yeah.
Like there has to be a baseline. I'm whole and complete in and of myself. And I'm at peace with who I am.
Yeah.
Just I'm at peace with my baseline self. But if you want to feel valued and like you matter and your work is doing something in the world and you're doing well at life, like you can't do that in a vacuum.
No, I mean, the 3 in me 100% agrees with you all the way on that but then the 3 in me that is doing work on their 3-ness is the one who is afraid of that because I know that my identity is created by other people's perception of me. And as a result, I'm working towards improving my relationship with that framework. So being almost embarrassed about that. But then also knowing that like human design or like Enneagram, it's a way to say you are free to.
Exactly.
You are free to embrace that part of yourself. How do you do that in the healthiest way possible? How do you follow that path?
And what if the embracing of it is the way that you contribute spiritually the most to the stream of life?
Ooh. Like, yeah, it's not only good for you, Cassidy, individually, because it's easier if you go and flow, but it's also a gift to the world to do so.
See, more and more, that's what I'm starting to understand about healthy ego. Like there's a way that we have to be, like when you are selfish, quote, quote, or self-centered, like we wrestle with this as artists all the time, right? Is the endeavor of my life to be a working artist the most selfish thing, and therefore is that bad? Shouldn't I be out there doing more political work to save the people in Africa? Okay, yes. And if you let's look at someone totally selfish who never did any work in Africa. Maybe John Travolta. I'm making that up. I'm sure he's done great works. Please don't sue us, John Travolta's people. But let's say John Travolta is just focused on like me and my acting career. My life is better because John Travolta's movies exist, period.
I mean, your life isn't better because he is a big part of Scientology, which I don't think makes people's life better. But that's just a detail.
Well, no, I'm not talking about Scientology. That's a different conversation, but fair enough. I'm talking about like, because his movies exist, like I would say the world is a better place. I'm happier. I can go see a John Travolta movie. I've never gone to a John Travolta movie and been like, life is worse now.
Look who's talking 3. I'm just going to poke holes in your theory here.
The human design perspective is when we lean into where we have definition in the design, AKA when you be yourself and you be what is about you in your fixation, what you're doing is adding to the stream of life. And so if you were to say, well, everything that's me, I shouldn't do because that's ego, well, then everybody's just sitting at home trying not to be who they are. And you're certainly not adding to the stream of life.
That just reminded me, the thing about the filled in spot, something we said on last week's episode. You said something to the effect of, and it was something you had learned recently, the more those places that you are undefined or that you are defined, which one was it? And you use those as reasons you have no right to exist.
I got it. So here's how it is. When you have an open ego, the not self of the open ego, the conditioning mind of the open ego will say anywhere you behave the way your definition would have you behave, AKA whenever you do anything that is an expression of self, that is proof of.
In any of your centers.
In any channel, gate, or center. Because anywhere you have a gate or a channel defined, that's definition.
Okay.
It's fixed. It's who you are. It's a part of you, you could say. So the not self of the open ego says any expression of self is a justification for why you shouldn't exist.
Right. And that shit dropped like a bomb in my house in the best way.
Oh, good.
I walked into the room while Rami was listening to the podcast. I don't think I'm giving any secrets away. And Rami was listening to the podcast and that line played. And both of us, I'd heard it already, but both of us our eyes both kind of went wide. And Rami just kind of went, ah, and stopped it. And then went into another room to another member of our household and was like, you got to hear this. And then played it. And then they were in there for a long ass time talking about it. And then I had to ask a question and I went in and I was like, yeah, that right. And they were like, our other housemate was like, yeah, I'm still working on that one. That I just wanted to share that shit dropped like a fucking bomb in our house in a good way.
The reason I had to say it, I was so compelled to talk about it, is because of the bomb it was in my fucking reality. I was like, that is the answer to so many things. All you have to say to yourself is, oh, that's the not self talking. Anytime that happens, instead of analyze it, feel into it, process it, talk to a therapist, there's nothing to do except go, oh, because if you can identify, let me back up. You have to understand your definition first for this thing I'm about to say to work. In other words, if you look at somebody's chart like myself, where I have a fuck ton of definition, a lot of gates defined, a lot of channels defined, a lot of centers defined, I have to learn with my mind a lot of information about what each of those are so that I know when that aspect of self is operational, and then the not self of the open ego says, look at you being a fucker. Look at you not deserving to exist. I can recognize the form of expression I was just in as one of my defined thingies, right? But I have to know what those are and in order to catch this in the act, this not self thing. Otherwise,
yeah, catching it in the act is a big one.
Because otherwise you can just justify, no, but really I shouldn't exist because of this one, because of all these reasons. A lot of which, and here's a real bummer, a lot of those reasons come from the conditioning of the spiritual world.
Right. That's the thing I was getting to earlier, or starting to get to, which is like all these conditions of, you are whole, perfect, and complete exactly as you are right now. Okay, well, then I'm going to think that if I do anything besides that, that I'm failing to live up to that. If I take any input from the outside world to feed my ego, I just failed that precept.
Right. So you're fucked either way.
Yeah.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. That's a double bind. We call that a double bind. So it's like, I don't know. That's why I'm such a proselytizer of all this. It's like, get to know your definition so that when you're doing it, when you're in your life just being a channel 65.4, you're like, look at my 65.4 operating. I'm being me, as opposed to like, I shouldn't have done that because some people would say that's a blah, 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 or that's the ego, or that's me needing connection, or that's me needing attention, or why don't I
feel like I just realized an Enneagram book to be written is one that's just called Getting Right with Your Type.
That's a great title.
Isn't that a good title?
Yes.
Getting Right with Your Type.
Dude, that's so funny you say that, because all week, this week in particular, I'm not sure what's going on astrologically. I mean, I know some things about it, but I don't know why this would be brought up by that. But I've been thinking about exactly that, about the 8, so much this week. I've been having a lot of moments of, okay, let me back up. In Access Consciousness, we've talked about how there's a lot of shit they taught that was shit, but there was a lot of shit they taught that's great. And I'm always teasing through for myself which pieces I'm still keeping from that world and which I'm fucking tossing into the trash can and setting on fire. Point being, one of them that I like is what's right about me that I'm not getting, or what's right about this that I'm not getting. And I've been thinking about, it's been coming to me a lot about the anger and the vengeance of the 8, how the 8 will go to vengeance when its higher expression is innocence. And then the 8, they talk about the 8 needs to, what's the term? Off gas anger and go like, I'm mad. And then they're like, I'm over it. Hi, how are you? But that's hard for other people, because other people are like, I'm afraid of the anger and it means you hate me and I'm a bad person and now I'm mad at you back. The understandable response to it. So I was like, I don't know what the fuck I was mad at. The 9th thing of the day. But I was driving in my car and I was like mad at somebody in the Starbucks window. I was like, this fucking bitch. Then I like spilled a thing in my car and I was like, what the fuck? I'm spilling shit, like real mad. And then a millisecond later, I'm like, today's the best day of my life. I'm living, I'm so happy and peaceful. And then I'm like, what kind of animal is this? What animal is this? This 8 animal is so weird, even to myself. But it was interesting because I had no judgment of it. I suddenly was like, yeah, I just did some off-gassing and then I was mad about that. Now I'm happy. So I was like, what is right? I've been sitting with this. What's right about the 8 having to do that anger thing that I'm not getting? What's right about it?
That's an interesting thought.
So to extend it to you, right? The 3 needing the, whatever that is, the reflection of people to be like, you exist or you have value. What's right about that?
Yeah. It's being in touch with my community. It's being aware of my effect on other people. There's a lot right about it.
And it's I'm coming back to like the thing we said before. It's like you contribute to the stream of life because you need them to validate you.
Right. And so I better do good things in the world.
Otherwise, you're going to sit at home and do fucking nothing.
And I'm going to be perceived badly if I do bad things. So why don't I do good things so I can be perceived goodly?
Yep.
And also, you just said something that sparked a brain about someone else that I was thinking about. I was like, you were just talking about vengeance. And I had the thought, does 2 go to 8? And I was like, and I decided to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Did 2s go to 8?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
And 2s are full of fucking vengeance all the time.
That's true.
when they're crossed, when things go wrong, when things aren't the way they should be. Anger, I don't know if that's true, but I've experienced it. So, and I just looked at it and I was like, yep, 2s go to 8.
But it's the integration point or the disintegration?
I don't know. And I've also heard from other people that delineation isn't to be trusted. The disintegration and integration, it's kind of a both way thing. Those are slipstreams that you can go along.
I definitely find that to be true for myself. Like the disintegration point for me is the 5, and I isolate and I go away from people. And then the integration is the 2. I'm loving and I'm connected and I'm out there in the world.
Well, then that would mean that the disintegration is the 2 to the 8. So that does make sense.
Okay. So wait, it would?
Yeah, because I think they go opposite to directionality.
I'm going to look it up. My point being that there's some good shit about my 5-ness, but there's some real bad shit about my 5-ness. And there's some great shit about my 2-ness, and there's some bad shit about my 2-ness. So it depends on which aspects of these numbers we're integrating and disintegrating toward, right?
Yes.
You're reading something, huh?
Yeah, sorry, say that again. I think I heard you, but I want to make sure.
Now I'm looking it up too.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Rami here. So the word in French for pineapple is ananas. And to say a pineapple, you would say ananana. You're welcome. Also, the word in Brazil for pineapple is abacaxi. Abacaxi. Makes a great toast or rallying cry. Abacaxi! Rami's rules.
It is. We were right. 5 grows to 8. 8 grows to 2. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
2 grows to 4, but which means it disintegrates to 8. And that totally tracks with, if we trust those directions, that totally tracks with what I'm thinking about 2s when they are hurt.
Makes sense.
It can look like rage. It can look like, like vengeance. You should be punished.
Yep. I'm just seeing so many moments during my day, like small things. I'm walking Sarah's dog and he is such an asshole. And I just want to pull his leash back toward me. Like he's veering off, but he's really strong. So he pulls me away. And I want to tug him back in a way that lets him know he's a pile of shit.
Yeah.
I want him to suffer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's right about that I'm not getting? I don't
Exactly.
know. But I am sitting in the question in a new way. I'm like, there's something useful in this. There's something very strong in it. It's just about wielding it correctly. Like, I don't want to abuse a lady's dog, so I'm not going to do that. But the energy itself isn't the problem. It's the application of the energy,
Right.
I would argue.
Well, he needs to know, because it'll be better for him overall if he feels consequence to his unaligned action.
And yet...
And that's where the vengeance is.
I don't know.
But also consequence is such a fucking bullshit concept so many times, because it's, who the fuck are you to say what the consequences should be?
Well, although I don't know about that either, because at a certain point, I've lived enough life to know. Like, I am wise enough and learned enough to go, like, if there's no consequence to that thing, this occurs. If there is a consequence to that thing, this occurs. Like, at a certain point, you've learned enough and you can trust yourself to trust whatever consequence. That would be like saying every parent who's ever parented, how could they know when a kid needs a timeout?
Right.
Well, they know, because they know their kid and they know what the timeout does and they know what not doing a timeout does.
Yeah.
So you know, at least I feel like a lot of times I do know, you know? You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, did we answer all of that?
That's an interesting question to like walk through. Here's a random thought. If we use Enneagram as our framework, just because it's smaller in scale and scope than design, could we do a quick run through of the types and ask
what's right about that?
Yeah, and maybe do that to consciousness. Maybe open consciousness and ask for a little download on, hey, can we just run through the types real quick and just sort of get a framework of, is that too?
I love this plan.
Okay. Do we know what the basic things that we want to address on each type would be? No,
it would help me if you pulled that up. Let me know if you need a site suggestion.
Well, I'm just looking at this one that gives the sort of one-word descriptors that kind of have judgment to them.
Like what?
The 1 is principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and perfectionistic. So I would pull out perfectionistic as being the word to be addressed. Type 2 is generous, demonstrative, people-pleasing, and possessive. Great, so that's the thing to be addressed there. Type 3 is adaptable, excelling, driven, and image conscious. That's the thing to be pulled out there.
I see.
So I think these all have something. Type 4, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental. Type 5 is secretive and isolated. I'm picking the negative words because I think that's what we're addressing.
Mm-hmm.
But we can use them all: perceptive, innovative, secretive, and isolated.
Well, what comes up for me first, even as you're saying that, is Chris Hewerts has already labeled the holy ideal, he calls it, of each.
Ah, yes.
It's already a thing. Can we pull those up?
Yep.
Type 1, perfection. Type 2, will.
Ah, yeah, that's what I want to.
Type 3, harmony, hope. Type 4, origin. Type 5, transparency. Type 6, strength. Type 7, wisdom. Type 8, truth. Type 9, love.
Well, I feel like they've just done our job for us.
Uh-huh.
We don't necessarily need to ask about it if we just compare the problem with the reframe.
Let's compare them. Can you read wait a minute. Now, here we go. The traditional virtues of the type. So here are the virtues. Type 1, serenity. I know a couple ones who would love that. Type 2, humility. Type 3, truthfulness, authenticity. Truthfulness, authenticity. Type 4, equanimity, emotional balance. Type 5, detachment. Type 6, courage. Type 7, sobriety. Type 8, innocence. Type 9, returning to type 1.
Whoa.
Oh, no, sorry. Type 9, action.
I was like, what?
Yeah. So
those feel like the ideals that you're striving for against the things that hold you back.
Well, I would frame it like, okay, I'll speak for myself because he's calling it the virtues of each type. So mine would be innocence, right? Which is sort of the opposite of vengeance. Like vengeance is punitive and wrathful, whereas innocence is just receptive and youthful, like open and sweet. And to me, it makes sense that I'll describe it like this. I've sat with this dichotomy so many times, vengeance to innocence, that I've asked to be shown the connection between the two. And here's the only way I can describe it. Anytime I get my heart blown open by something, which is all the time, I want to be like a closed-hearted, vengeful asshole. That's just what I have. That's my MO. And then my heart gets blown open. Like my doggies are cute and my heart blows open. And then all of a sudden I'm like a 6-year-old innocent girl petting these puppies. And I couldn't punish them if I wanted to.
Right.
So it's the virtue I carry when I'm not in my personality's default mode. So if we look at each of them, is this the virtue that you carry when you're not in your personality's default mode? So for the 3, truthfulness.
I think the phrase we were looking for are habits of mind. That's what vengeance is. It is the 8's habit of mind. It's not the sin. Sin is excess. It's not I think this all rose out of us talking about how vengeance shows up in an 8 and how do we reframe that, right?
Well, I'm asking what's right about vengeance that I'm not getting.
Yes, that's what I mean. So I'm just for the sake of like balancing it out and like what are the equivalents of vengeance in the other types?
Right. And we looked at that, right?
Not exactly, because it wasn't showing up in any of the lists.
Oh, well, here, we can look at that. I have that.
For habits, mental habits, fixations, it's fixations.
That's it. Fixations. Here they are.
So Enneagram 1 is resentment. Enneagram 2 is flattery. Enneagram 3 is vanity. Enneagram 4 is melancholy. Yeah, this is tracking for me. Enneagram 5, stinginess. Enneagram 6 is cowardice. 7, planning. 8, vengeance. 9, laziness. Lethargy.
Yeah. So the opposites of those are their virtues. So I'm going to read the virtue after you read each that thing.
Great.
Fixation. So the 1.
So the 1's fixation is resentment.
And the virtue is serenity.
Right. So that sounds to me like a release from the fixation of resentment that things aren't perfectly done. The flaws are, I don't care about the flaws. Enneagram 2, flattery.
Humility.
Interesting. So it's your own humility. You're giving flattery to other people in order for them to love you.
So you lack humility.
So you actually lack humility because you don't need them to love you to actually be whole and in yourself. If you're humble, you don't require.
At least not in that particular cloying way that the two can do.
Yes. Vanity, straight tracks.
Truthfulness.
So instead of seeking to have your ego assuaged, you are truthful instead.
And it says truthfulness, authenticity. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, that one tracks right with what we're saying in terms of being authentic is how you do your fucking job as a 3. That's how you bring it to the world. That's how you get admired.
That's true. But you'll think you have to do it in some performative way.
Right.
Okay, the 4.
That's loud. That's really loud in my. Oof. Turn that idea down, please. 4, melancholy.
Equanimity or emotional balance.
Yeah. No more shoegazing.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like that one, because I always think of 4s as being, they tend to think that their feelings are special and unique, and you couldn't possibly understand. And so balance to me also says like, no, you're part of the world. There's, you're in balance with other people as well.
Yeah, I often think that humility is needed there too with the 4, but.
No, that's not crazy. Yeah, because they know better than anybody else what the problems of the world are and.
Yep.
And how it affects them. 5, stinginess. That one I don't quite recognize.
Detachment.
So 5 is a scarcity.
I recognize it.
I'm just going to read the description for the 5. Stinginess, a scarcity paradigm that leads to an insatiable thirst for knowing, a reluctance to share knowledge, time, space, and personal information, and to strategizing about how to control one's environment. Oh, see, because I always recognize the 5s. The 5s that I know are somewhat healthy 5s, so they're always sharing their knowledge. A little too much, maybe sometimes. So that they're on that part of the spectrum already. They're already in the, what was it?
Detachment.
And didn't you have a second word?
Not this one.
Oh, okay.
I guess I would put it like this. Like I've seen 5s that are just fully withdrawn from other humans. In fact, that person I wrote in the chat earlier is a 5 whose whole MO for a while there was like, my primary relationship is me, and I'm not interested in relationships with other people. I think they're overrated, which is really just like, okay, that's a way to withhold your love so you don't get hurt. And that same individual and 5s in general have the gift of detachment. So they can depersonalize stuff really well.
Yeah. So there's the strength in that. Is like, well, I can detach because I don't have to take things personally.
Yeah.
And they are to be admired for that. 6, cowardice.
Yeah. Courage.
Yeah. Cowardice, which comes from this constant worst case scenario situation. That's how I see 6s, seeing all the exits and where do I get out of this when the terrorists show up, And it is, again, courage. It's just the opposite. Be brave. Also know that you have the tools for that courage.
Like you can get out of the exit if you need to get out.
Yeah, it's the same. It's your superpower is the fact that you know where the exits are. Great. Now you can be courageous because you're the badass who knows everything.
Well, you're prepared.
And we need you. Thank God. Thank God you're here. The 7 is planning, going into hypergear, making lists, figuring out, the plan for what's going to be next.
Sobriety is the virtue. It's interesting.
The other aspect of 7s that we hear about is like gamifying everything. Everything has to have a rush or a game to it.
A fun time uppy vibe.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's all fun. I'm not having any feelings.
So you're striving for sobriety, but how does that play into
emotional sobriety?
Yeah. And how is that one of the 7's superpowers?
What do you mean?
How do they track to that? Like I see that this is a way of, that's something to be reached for, but how is that already present in a 7?
Well, it's not. You have to develop it in the same way that innocence is not already present in an 8. I had to develop it.
But it's, yeah, I guess my question is, when we first started this question, it was like, how is vengeance a good thing?
Oh, no, that's a different question. What's right about vengeance? I'm not getting.
Yeah.
So what you're asking is what's right about.
So we're not really answering that question. I thought we were trying to answer that question by finding the counterpoints.
Right. But I have some insight now.
Okay.
Let's keep doing what we're doing and then we can answer that. How's
Great. And we'll have a few minutes to do the rest of it. 8 is vengeance. We talked about that. And the counterpoint to that is
innocence,
and 9 is laziness.
action.
Those are great.
So, yeah. So what's right about vengeance that I'm not getting, I actually just get it now. I don't know how to explain that. It's just sitting with it. And then when we start talking about consciousness, I start to tap into consciousness. So I'm just going to speak about it. And then we can look at each one. See here. It's the willingness for a human being to be potently clear in setting a boundary and getting a need met, whereas most humans will not set a boundary or get a need met. When you have healthy amounts of clarity and truth-telling, that can sway into vengeance. In other words, you could look at each boundary a human has to set as being somewhat sadistic. You know, at the end of a therapy session, the therapist has to say, and we're at time, and they have to be willing to hold that boundary. And it feels uncomfortable for the therapist and the client, for the therapist to hold that boundary, because the therapist wants the person to keep going, because the person wants to keep going. But if the therapist has no boundary, then the other people in the therapist day get no help at all. Therefore, the slight sadism, the hurt, the short-term hurt of the client at the closing off of the boundary creates a long-term benefit for everyone, the client included. Now, an 8, as you say, is willing to engage with that sadism, the like, nope, we're ending it now, the clarity, the truth-telling, because it's more valuable to the 8 that long-term everybody get their big picture needs met. That is what's right about the vengeance of the 8 that you're not getting. Now, you can stray too far into that comfort with boundary setting and become punitive.
Yeah.
The end.
Which is what vengeance implies somewhat. This is great. Let's just see if we can just run through each of these. What's right about the resentment in the 1?
Well, the 1, it's funny because they don't like the categorizations, but they understand we need them for our minds. This person, what's right about the resentment and the perfectionism? You know, the 1 type is in pursuit of things that work and will not stop until the correct choice that works best for all concerned is chosen. And that is from a deep sense of consideration of the needs of all concerned. They care a lot, so they want it to be the best it can be. That's what's right about the perfectionism. The resentment is, of course, when you veer too far into the perfectionism, such that your heart closes to the humanity of others.
Right. Well, the resentment is a personalization of rather than just I'm frustrated by the problem, I resent you for being part of the problem, or I resent the problem. Yeah. 2, flattery. Okay.
So what's right about flattery is the generosity of spirit inherent in making someone else feel good, you know, and it only veers into the delusional or the self-fooling realm when the flattery is applied really so that one can receive one's own flattery. If the flattery is genuine, then it is of service. When the flattery is to get flattery back, then it is distorted.
The 3, vanity.
What's right about vanity? This is where you have the example of the beauty that is possible, the beauty that's created in your world. For example, if you think of anyone walking a red carpet ever, what's right about walking the red carpet? We all, the rest of us, get to look at the beauty of the person in the beautiful dress. I mean, to ask what's right about vanity I'm not getting is to ask what's right about beauty I'm not getting. And that seems obvious to you. That's what's right about vanity, because beauty is beautiful. Hallelujah. Now, if you serve the master of beauty to the detriment of truth, then you've lost yourself. But if you can be truthful and wear a beautiful dress, why not? The beauty of your dress will call attention to the truthfulness in your heart. Amen.
Melancholy in the 4.
So what's right about melancholy? Okay. This one is complicated for human beings because you can be a species that is addicted to peppy. But from melancholy, think of how much beautiful art is born. From melancholy, think of how much truth is communicated. From melancholy, think of how much depth diving one can do. Melancholy is a doorway to truth and intimacy. When you're melancholic, you're more likely to open your heart and connect with another. It breeds truth and intimacy and beauty and art. If everything were up all the time, think of how exhausted you would feel. It would be a dishonoring of the whole picture of the flower. So if you visualize a flower, the 3 would be the rose and the 4 would be the roots underground. You can't have a rose without roots. Yes, they're in the dirt and they're sad and it's cold and dark under there, but that's literally the birthing ground from which the flower can exist.
5, stinginess.
Okay, this one comes through like this. Pew, 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 pew. It's very clear. It's so funny. Very clear. It has a very 5, because the 5 is mental, right? So the 5 is a mind type. So it's like pew, 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 the energy of it. Whereas the 4 has this like watery, depthy, emotional quality, stinginess. So what's right about stinginess is other people around the 5 need to understand when they're not the most important thing in the world. In other words, the stinginess of the 5 shows us where we are arrogant, clingy, needy, prideful, demanding. When it's almost like the 5 is the uber boundary setter. The 5 says, no, I'm not available. Deal with yourself. And the stinginess of being unwilling to share with you whatever the fuck you want from it shows you where you are a little too fill in the blank. It teaches you about self-reliance.
Nice.
It holds a mirror to the delusion you have that someone outside yourself can fix it for you, whatever the it is. What's next?
6, cowardice.
Right about the cowardice we're not getting. This brings to mind the meek shall inherit the earth. What this means is when a human being can admit its fear, then it has a way forward. When you have something like the arrogance and the pridefulness of an 8 who says, I have no fear, well, then the 8 is in denial and can't make its way through its own problems. Whereas the 6 who is afraid all the time is owning the vulnerable truth in their heart. I'm afraid all the time. And as a result, there is a way forward. If you can vulnerably say, I'm afraid I don't know how to get out of this room, then you can make a plan to get out. But if you won't admit you're afraid, you don't even know you need a plan.
And the lion's going to get you.
Yeah, because you will have arrogantly denied your fear, but not the 6. There's a humility in it to say, I'm afraid.
I love this. 7, planning.
Planning. What's right about the meticulous, fucking detail-y, planny shit that the 7 does, says my ego, that I'm not getting. Well, okay. So I have to work on me with this one a little bit for a second. There is an undying fire of hopefulness at the heart of a 7. There is a hope for the possibility of joy. There is the hope for the possibility of fulfillment, of pleasure. There is the hope for the very fire of the embers that are that which creates life. The 7 believes in life. So all the planning of the 7 is for the sake of stepping more fully into life. All the other types, they want to pull away from life. The 7 is leaning heavily into life. So the planning is like, if we go at 7 and we get there by 8, then we get to have the pancakes that they only serve at 8. But if we leave at 7:30, we won't get there by 8 and all the pancakes will be gone and nobody will have joy. Nobody will feel alive. Nobody will have the pleasure of being fully embodied, living. This is the holy purpose of the planning of the 7.
I think I have a little 7 in me, but it's nowhere on my chart, but that's okay. I just resonate with that. With feeling like, yeah, everybody's always mad at me because I was like, well, actually that won't work because we have to do it this way, but okay.
I gotta go.
And then we won't actually get the thing. Okay, let's just do 9. Go, just say 9. Laziness, go, and then we're done.
Okay. What's right about the laziness? It's so funny. They take me into the energy of each of these before they talk about it. Okay. So what's right about this laziness of the 9 that we're not getting? Well, because it's the peace. Humanity, again, is addicted to doing, and it needs the counterbalance of peace. Laziness is also a doorway to finding oneself again, centering back into the peace. There's nothing wrong with peacefulness. What's right about laziness? You get to recoup and recover who you are and come back to yourself and rest and be replenished. And so it is.
So it is. We did it. That was neat. I hope you get to see your client and have a good time. You might as well stay in consciousness.
I love you. Thank you for waiting for me today.
You bet. I love do all the work and keep loving yourself.
I won't do my work, and I'm not going to love myself.
No. How the hell are you going to love somebody else?
Can't. I guess I'll be alone forever. I'll just be a 5 and disintegrate into my aloneness. Okay, bye.
Okay,
bye.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you.
Yeah, you're fucked. Should we cut this out? Everything we just said, let's start over. Boop.
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.